Let's see, there should be sound. And we should have an image. Hello, and welcome to this 28th live stream on 52 Miniatures. My name is Alex. Welcome. It's Monday evening in Sweden, and we're all here in my bunker. Welcome. Oh, there's people already. Hello, Phil. How are you doing? Long time since I caught you in a stream, right? It's good to see you. Kalamak says he is a bit tired, but he's had a coffee, which is good. I'm drinking tea. I'm not tired yet, by the way. Clyde Dashing, welcome. How are you doing? And Eric Brown, also doing the coffee thing. Is this all the early morning Americans doing the coffee, or is it the late night Australians doing the coffee? Let's see. Mark from Montana as well. How are you doing? Mark says, Happy New Year. Indeed. Happy New Year, everyone. For those of you who follow the same calendar as I do, I guess there's still. I read something about that. My son was wondering how, how the Romans counted their years, and I wasn't sure, so I sort of looked it up, and it was something along the lines of either sort of year zero being the year that Rome, the city, was founded, but you could also count from whoever's the emperor at the time. It's the 5th year of Caesar's reign or whatever. And so we also looked at Egyptians, and I think if we were going by the Egyptian calendar, we would now be in year 6,000 something. Kind of makes you think you're in the future. Good evening, Juicy Milk. How are you doing? Sully's Scale Models. Hello, how are you? And Mr. Tossable Biscuit. I haven't seen you in a while either. Hope you're well. Danielle Miller, greetings. Taking a break from work to watch along. Good to hear it. Welcome. I guess I'm not taking a break from work. If this is what we should call work, I don't really feel like I'm working, to be honest. Hello, Jan Andersson. How are you doing? Chris, good to see you here. Hope you're doing well. Chris came to visit me. He was actually here to do something else as well, but he came to visit me in Sweden for a few months back, right, Chris? It's good to see you here in the stream. Hope you're doing well. Phil says, this non-standard camera staging is disorienting. Are we in the workshop? Sort of, yeah. The thing is, I have, there's a relatively largish lamp over there, which is set up for the board build filming of videos. Usually I stream in the other direction. I say, I've got 3 desks. But streaming in any other way means having to move all the big lamps and everything, and then having to move them back when I go back to filming the board. So until the board's done, this is the streaming angle, kinda. What you can actually see in the background there, there's something black down over here. That's actually half of the board. It kind of looks a little bit like a map down here somewhere over there. That's my hill. It's black, which is cool. Hello, Loosely Collected. Good to see you as well. Calamac says it's 12 p.m. mid of the day, but in Mexico. That's right. You're in Mexico. I remember that now. I bet you it's not minus 12 Celsius outside, like it is for me. Eric Brown is in the middle of the day American. Yeah, I was kind of... my hair is, especially in that light, it's fantastic. I was thinking to myself today, I should stream because today was probably the only day that I could stream for like a couple of weeks or a week, and I thought I should do it. That'd be fun to say hi to you guys and talk some hobby. But then I was like, it's Monday, how many? I'm losing out on like half of the world, which is the United States. It sounds really wrong, actually, but in terms of viewership on YouTube, because you guys should be working right now. And probably half of Europe is like putting their kids to bed. But this was the hour I could find and the time I could find. So I figured I'd rather stream than not stream. Hello, Kim. How are you doing, Kim? Are you back at work? Clyde says, I'd go with the Egyptian count. I always wanted to be in the future, like Aussies and Kiwis. Yeah, especially like if it was the year 6000, maybe that would actually mean that the Aussies and Kiwis were doing the Mad Max thing for real, right? Now they're only sort of semi-doing the Mad Max thing, at least if you're in Adelaide, which is where I was. Hello, Aaron from Vancouver Island. Just setting up some STLs, white snows outside. I'm glad you said that. I should print some stuff overnight, really. If I'm smart and remember. I need more sandbags for my board. Deft says, I didn't know you do live streams. I get to tell you I've really loved your videos from the tremendous production quality and thoughtfulness you put into each video. Thank you. Well, thank you, Deft, for watching the videos. I really appreciate it. I do live streams. I did them more regularly, like last spring-ish, and then I sort of had to take a break just because it felt like the only thing I was doing was making YouTube videos and streaming. Don't stream that often, like every other week. It's just nice to keep in touch. And because the videos are so sort of kind of produced, it's nice to just sit down and be me and not scripted me, which is nice to be able to just talk to you guys, basically. But I try and stream, I want to stream just, this kind of stuff. Sometimes I do some crafting while I'm at it, or, paint some minis, hopefully. But it's just nice to connect and say hi. And discuss exciting topics. Please ask me things if you wonder about things. Juicy milk. Might be strange to mention, but I'm a big fan from South Africa. I thought you might not hear that much, but we exist. Yes, that is cool. How's the hobby thriving in South Africa? I was actually, as a child, I grew up in Botswana. It's pretty much next door. Hello, Felix. How are you doing? Hello, Tom. Paint Mini from Berlin. Love the grey wall. Yes. The only thing about this grey wall, so when I moved in, I can't remember what the color of the wall was when I moved in. I think it might have been green or purple. And obviously, for me, a neutral grey is kind of nice when filming, just because it doesn't, to get more neutral kind of colors when you film things. And white's annoying because it just, it's just white. And I went and I bought this huge bucket of paint to paint the entire bunker grey, obviously, seeing as bunkers should be grey. I scratch built a bunker, by the way. I'm going to show you that a bit later. And but I forgot to ask about the shine on the paint. So I mean, I would have liked it to be a matte shine, but it wasn't. It's sort of pearlescent, which bugs me. Reflects things. Don't like that. But I only noticed that after I painted the entire bunker, and I wasn't going to do it again. Hello, Paul Hempenstall. Jamie Mayers, how are you doing? Hope you're doing well. Clyde says, poor lad, 4 years old, got a snowsuit for Christmas, but we've not had a single snowflake. We've had plenty of snowflakes and rather cold weather. Or in Stockholm, it's always a bit warmer because it's close to the sea and it's a city, and so things melt and then it snows and then it melts. But as soon as you go like an hour north or just outside of Stockholm, stuff hasn't melted and there's tons of snow. Actually, me and my son went. I don't know. In Sweden, we have something called a snow racer, which is basically like a sled, but it's got a steering wheel and stuff. And we totally ruined it the last time we were out because we were both riding it and so it said crack, and I've ordered replacement parts, and I'm going to try and fix that this evening later on. I guess that's proof of having fun. Kalamak has 26 degrees, which is not snowy weather. Danielle is about 0 in sunny New Mexico. Corvin, hello, how are you doing? Work Schmirk, I like the sentiment. Victor Rivera, how are you doing? Hope you're doing well. Mark from Montana says, Alex, this is my work. Ditto. Felix is lurking while taking his son to bed. That's good. Henrik Sperling says, greetings from Lake Constance. Well, greetings. Eric Brown, thank you for the donation. It's a super chat thingy with money, which is something, I like money. Money pays for tea, pays for XPS foam, blades for the knife. The water's free, but, so money's great. Thank you. Thank you for making the first day back to work of 2024 less painful. I'm glad you said that. This is sort of my first day back to work as well. I've actually spent 3 days, past 3 or 4 days, doing my bookkeeping, last year's bookkeeping. When you have piles of things everywhere and they're supposed to be organized and put into like an organized pile that makes sense. I always just leave it until last minute, which means I only do it once a year, but it's a real pain once a year. So I guess I've been working for about 3 days doing that, but this is the first day back in the bunker, which is great. I've been cleaning up. There's actually a clean desk over there, which is great because most of the stuff, this is kind of what it looks like all the time with the board. It's just XPS flying around. But just sitting here, being able to, you can't see it. It's behind you. Don't try to turn around because we're in different dimensions. But over there is a clean desk. It's just kind of lovely to look at it from over here. I'm not going to do anything over there because that means it will not stay clean. I'm going to stay over here. But thank you, Eric Brown. Sully Scale Model says, Monday is not a bad day to stream. I join 1 in 2 hours. We get a lot from all over the world, though we're not a tabletop channel. I guess any day is a good day to stream. I just, I imagine weekends when you're like, because right now, apart from Corwin's tabletop, people in the US are working, they're at work, but on weekends, maybe they have some more time off, and more people can join in. Bora773 says, hi, Alex. I was wondering, being a family man myself, do you actually get to play at all, or does all your time flow into the building and video part? Mostly the second. I think last year I played one round of Age of Sigmar, one round of Stargrave, at one game. That might be it for last year. Last year was a bit, felt a bit messy. Like I couldn't really, I had a good rhythm until I went to the US to visit Dave from Mini Wargaming and Miniac Scott. I'm not saying they messed up. I'm not saying they messed up my rhythm, but it was like after I was away for a while, and it was like after that, I just always felt like I was trying to catch up, with making videos and work, and that. So I just, there were opportunities to play games, and I kind of just didn't take them. I'm hoping for more this year, definitely. But I enjoy, making the videos and painting the minis and crafting the things and stuff like that. So it's not like I feel like I'm missing out terribly. It's like that, maybe this year will be the year where I play lots of games, or maybe next year. But I'm not trying to stress over the fact that I don't get to play so many games. I do want to. It's just this past year has felt like I'm just a little bit behind all the time, just trying to catch up, Juicy Milk says, regarding the hobby scene in South Africa, the hobby scene is still quite small, but in the bigger cities, it's growing quite a bit. That's cool. How do you fare with like stock and things, and is obviously there hopefully is, you can order things to get shipped over, but I'm just hobby stores and stuff like that. Do you have them? And is stuff more expensive because of shipping? I don't know. I was talking to someone, this was quite a while back, probably several years ago. There's a few guys or girls, I don't actually know, I could just see their nicknames, that used to join live streams that were from Brazil. And they had I know there's obviously a difference between South Africa and Brazil. They're on different continents to start off with, but in Brazil especially, they had a difficult time just getting hold of supplies because of import taxes and stuff like that. So they mainly just used things from art stores. So they were sort of avid painters of using oil paints and stuff like that, because they, what they could get a hold of to paint miniatures was basically what you could get a hold of in an art store. There was no miniature paints that they could get a hold of, and what they could get was just expensive, and it was way too expensive to try and import things. Giles, hello. I wish you all a happy new year. I'll try and listen with one ear while putting the girls to bed. That's a good daddy. Cleo, hello. A nice mellow stream is exactly what I need right now. Happy New Year to everyone. Happy New Year to you as well. Adrian Giddings, 52% miniatures, 18% grey, 30%. I think your brain is working faster than mine now, Adrian. 30% cameras, maybe, or lighting. Corbin says, regarding my shiny walls, it's way more work than it's worth, but you can scruff the surface of the wall with sandpaper to reduce the shine. Yeah. It's probably more annoying than repainting. Yes. And like I could, I've got like 4 cans of Montana matte varnish. But just imagine the coating of matte varnish if I'd spray paint my walls matte. Now I've kind of come to terms with it. It was a mistake. It's it's a semi-shiny bunker. What are you gonna do? Gorkamorka says, any of the Santa's little helpers came to help you out with that huge table? Not yet. I'm thinking of trying to maybe give Santa a call and see what his little helpers are up to when it's time to paint. That's my big fear at the moment, is the time to paint this thing. I'm just mainly because I'm afraid of myself, because I get stuck in details, and so I'm thinking, will I be sitting here painting every single sandbag on every single trench? In that case, you can find me. See my next video in 2026. I have some ideas how I could, get nice paint on here more efficiently. I have ideas, there are plans, but I'm just afraid that I'll kind of, derail from those plans and find myself sitting like this for 3 hours just doing this little bit here and and I was kind of thinking, if I get some other people in to help me paint, then I can just be a bit more hands-off with the painting process and not maybe be as pedantic as I usually am. I can just go, oh, that looks kind of nice, cool. Someone else painted it, that's fun. But I'm not there yet, so I haven't taken that decision. We'll see. Grey primer has a mild 3 degrees in Ireland. It's nice. Phil, heading to -30 in Alberta later this week. That's cold. I know it's about up north. There's like -20 here in Sweden, but yeah. 50 of you haven't pressed the button yet. We'll wait. Thanks, Adrian. Essentially, what Adrian means is if you press the like button, then YouTube will acknowledge that I'm a pleasant fellow to hang out with during a live stream and share this live stream with more people that are on the internet as we speak. So if you press the like button, more people will see that the stream is live. So please watch an ad. I think ads will run shortly for some viewers. Good luck with that. But regardless of ads, please press like. Calamac says, you played with Scott. That's right. 3 games in last year. Well, bang. We played that little game that Malev has done. Ghost Ship. I was totally confused, and we just died constantly. Corbin says, I hope we'll see some games on this board once it's done. I've been pondering that. We'll see. I think if I would ever do a battle report, it would be major work, because I'd have to narrate it somehow. It would have to be more of a story, like, even if we play the game, I'd have to move cameras, film things, close-ups, maybe have some kind of more enjoyable narrative going than just seeing 2 people standing by a table with their faces in a rule book and just lots of rolling of dice. It would have to be some kind of a narrative and lots of just movement of troops on the table and stuff like that, which means it'd take several days to try and film a battle report, which I wouldn't mind. I just have to make sure that the person I can play with can you take 2 days off of work to patiently watch me move cameras around, Jamie Mayers. Whenever I get sad about being sat in my smaller, higher up bunker and not playing many games, I remind myself how awful leaving the house my dice rolls and my strategies are, and I feel less bad about it. I get your sentiment, Jamie. I very rarely win any games, but it's fun to watch other people win, I guess. Eric says, nice to listen while at work during the week, and nice to hobby while listening and interacting on the weekends. Streams at different times just provide different benefits, and we appreciate them all. Well, thank you, Eric. Clyde Dashing, more XPS money. Thank you. Another donation from Clyde Dashing. Thank you. A few digital coins to pay for the free water and pricey foam. Indeed, the foam is actually not very expensive. I was a bit surprised. I mean, it's not free, but it wasn't, you know. Wood was more expensive. Like you can see the backside of the actual table behind me, and I mean that sheet of MDF, that was expensive. The XPS was not too bad. So I'll put it in. I'll put the money in the MDF tray. Thank you, Clyde. I appreciate it. Stretch, good evening. How are you doing? And Wolvencraft, how are you? I hope you're well. Hope you enjoyed your time away. I know I enjoyed mine, but it's good to see you and be back. Likewise. Wolvencraft has a YouTube channel you guys should check out. He also builds boards and stuff. So go have a look. Adrian says, oh, that was a comment on the neutral walls. Sorry, I'm all tangents today. I hope you're doing okay, Adrian. I like your tangents. Juicy Milk says, regarding South Africa and the hobby situation in South Africa. Hobby stores usually have stock, but struggle with Games Workshop and such, but I understand that's a global problem. We also don't have a lot of brands that the rest of you might have. Stuff like Pro Acryl. Yeah, I can get that. It took a pretty long time to be able to get Pro Acryl in Europe and in Sweden. I think my local game store stocks Pro Acryl, but only like the starter set box, which is quite the investment when one already has a lot of paint. I got sent some paints the other day. They're actually at home. I set them up at home, which was our friend Duncan. Too Thin Coats paint range is coming out with the next batch of paints. Like they did a Kickstarter, I believe. Can't remember. And this is the second wave of paints. I haven't really. My son painted 2 orcs, and he enjoyed them. He used one thick slobby coat and not 2 thin ones, but it seemed to work fine for him. And there's a pretty nice range of skin tones in there that I plan on using. I'm painting my Stormcast Samurai Gladiators, which are going to go into my Roman-inspired Stormcast army. Stormcast already kind of look ancient. They could be Roman, Greek, whatever, with extra muscles and bolts of lightning. But I've tried to Romanize mine even more, and I have a set of paladins, which is like the chunkiest soldiers in the Stormcast, sort of. And I kind of wanted to do gladiators, so I started kit bashing them, and I put gladiator helmets on, and then I realized afterwards that they kind of also look a bit like samurais for some reason. So they're Roman samurai gladiators, which makes perfect sense. And I've started painting them at home, and I'm going to use. I already have sort of a scheme, and I already picked out paints for it, and then I got the two thin coats range. But I'm going to try them out for whatever things like this, like the faces and stuff like that, using the paints. See what I like. But it was a nice little Christmas review gift, which is great. I don't know if anyone's tried their paints, but whoa, okay, I'm massively behind in the chat. I'm gonna stop blabbering. Clyde Dashing says bigger brushes. I'll buy bigger brushes, Clyde. Thank you. Juicy Milk continues the South African situation. We also have a big problem with importing stuff, especially on an individual level, because of our country has a very high import tax. Yeah, that's what I was kind of wondering about. And there is essentially no postal services beside couriers. Well, I hope you can work through that by going to the game store then. Seymour Heikkinen, how are you doing? Thanks for the perfect evening stream. Seems to be helping putting the baby to sleep, and Dad gets his hobby dose at the same time. I'm not going to try and sing lullabies. My son is 8, so I've forgotten all the lullabies. But for probably the first 3 years of his life, it's felt like the only thing I was doing with my vocal cords was scaring my child by trying to sing lullabies. Michael Stuller says in Swedish, I'm not the best painter, but if you need any help, just let me know. I will, Michael. I was actually, I have been considering if, there are a few patrons in Sweden. So, it could be a patron event for those that are in Sweden or want to just travel up for a day or two, come paint the board. But it would be kind of awful if I was like, what the heck, what are you doing? And then I'd lose a patron. Just kidding. The thought has crossed me. We'll see how I go, how the plans proceed. But thank you for offering, Michael. Henrik, pressed as ordered. Excellent. Anyone new in? Press the like button. It's like a test of devotion. Mr. Pendrag is 21 to 24 below zero in Oslo. I hope you haven't gone outside. I hope shopping arrives miraculously in your fridge. Eric Brown says you could always mix up a gigantic oil wash and proper grim dark the bunker. The walls, you mean? Yes. Just it's a lot of white spirit. There'd be some pretty freaked out videos there for a bit while the white spirit dries. Jamie Mays says, is there a hobbyist equivalent of the cone of shame they put on pets to stop them from nibbling at stitches? One of those anyway, to stop you micro texture management. Yeah. Alex, time out. Go sit in the corner. You've been doing too many details. You want to see my magnetic bunker, by the way? Check this out. It's kind of not really in focus. Wow. See from that side, it kind of looks like a bit like a bunker. This is actually a 2-story bunker. The other side's down there. You can't really see it all that well. Here's a bunker. And then I thought it should have 2 stories for reasons. And so I magnetized the whole thing. So the roof from the bunker below that was already FDM printed is now the floor of the bunker on top. And this is all built out of, it's a little XPS foam scratch built bunker roof. Story number 2. Unfortunately, someone's shot a big hole in it, which, you know, kind of happens, which is my solution to not really figuring out how to do the back. And because it kind of turned out a little bit crooked. So I thought, well, it's probably crooked because someone broke it with an explosion. And here we are. You can't really see it, all that detail. It shall, of course, appear in a video. I'm just, you know, magnets. There's a bunker behind here as well, which has a magnets. It's great. Okay. Corey says, what about setting up and playing on a live stream? I'm not that good. I think having to listen to like someone not understanding the rules for 5 hours, and then I think when live streaming games, obviously it depends, but if I'm just not, the gaming side I really enjoy, but my brain is not wired to play these kind of games, you know. And I'm like counting dice. It's like 2, and then it's 4, and then you know, I don't think it wouldn't be all that entertaining. I leave it up to the pros, but it's a good idea. Hey Token, how you doing? Can you do Stargrave, Rogue Stars, maybe even Core Spacer or the Drowned World Review and Battle Reports? We'd love that from you. I've never really done reviews or battle reports. I think because I have a difficult time grasping games. I read books, like rule books, and I go, wow, this seems like fun. And it usually is. And there might be things in the rules that I think that's a good little detail. I like that. Like, you know, the game that I'm building this board for many games, but a War Transformed, I look at the rule book and I go, wow, this I like the rules. But I'm not, my brain isn't wired in a way that I understand what the rules mean to the game, if that makes any sense. You know, if you watch like Guerrilla Miniature Gaming, is that him? Is that the name of the channel? Guerrilla Wargaming? Guerrilla, I'm sorry, I forgot. It's a great channel for checking out battle reports and reviews on games and stuff like that. And you know, you can just tell when he's reading the rules. It's like he reads the text and he goes like, "Oh, that means it's going to be a fast game or a slow game, or it's going to be tricky to shoot the other person, or it's not." Or wow, that's I can't jump to those kind of conclusions. And so I don't feel like I don't feel like I play enough games to be able to review games, if that makes any sense. It's like I read a ton of books, like, you know, novels, books. And so I'm comfortable doing like book reviews because I've read so many books. And I know what I like and I know what, you know, this and that. With games, you know, gameplay, I feel like I'd, you know, maybe if I get into playing more games, I can do it in a couple of years when I feel more adapted to it. Danielle Miller says, any interest in painting Battletech miniatures? Would love to hear your take on the game. It's spreadsheets, the tabletop game, Battletech. It's the robots, right? Not really robots, but yeah. It was kind of re-released recently, wasn't it? Like pretty new. version of it, wasn't it? I don't know much about it. I'll have to check it out. Nickname dot or understroke says, I'm laid out with a migraine this morning, so a nice and relaxed stream is perfect. If it helps with the migraine, thumbs up. Seb says, Happy New Year from Germany. I wouldn't mind watching a game on a live stream. No need for a 5-camera multi-angle setup. That's the problem. I would have to do that. It's in my blood. That's another reason I haven't done, even considered doing battle reports, is just, I wouldn't be able to do it without like setting the lighting great and having lots of cameras everywhere. And I know it maybe isn't necessary, but it's necessary for me, so that's another reason. Corvin's Tabletop says, regarding narrative battle report, let me tell me about it. They're way more work, but fun to make. Yeah, I can imagine the scope of doing it, definitely. Okay, my chat jumped again, and I realize I'm now lost. Babis says, not many hobby people in the country, only one shop in the island, not high import taxes. Shipping cost is high though. An XPS sheet like yours is like 90 euros. What island is that, Babis? I might have missed. Island of Doom. Atlantis. It's not really an island. It's just disappeared, I guess. But I think 90 euros is more than I paid for 6 of these sheets, I think. I can't remember. I said it in a video and then I forgot. Sam says the Wave 2 from Duncan are amazing. I liked because it's a 2 thin coats range. I took them home because basically at home I have my golden so flat paints, which is basically a lot of single pigment based colors. So I have a couple of reds, a yellow, a blue, a green, and so forth. Just really vibrant, and you kind of need to mix them to make different shades. And it felt like a lot of the paints that came out of the Wave 2 of the 2 thin coats range was a lot of just weird mixed colors. There was a lot of weird purples and some army style greens and browns and all of that kind of stuff, which is actually a little bit of a hassle to keep on mixing all the time with the so flats. So it felt like a good match. There was also some washes and some metallic paints in there and some glazes. My son used the metallics. They looked nice. The washes and the glazes were not really colors that I would probably use all that much of, because I'm guessing a lot of the daily usage washes were probably in the first run, like a black wash and a brown wash and a sepia wash. I'm just guessing was in the first, and this was more like a purple wash and a red wash and a green wash or something. I don't really use washes much, and especially not purple ones, but they're they were at home. Sam says the first 60 were nice and consistent, but as we're all spoiled in the hobby and want all tones available, the extra 60 helped a lot. The metal colors are one of the best out there. Yeah, they look. My son just used a couple, but they look really nice. Chris was really bummed out with the 2 thin coats. I found the whites and related whites very chunky. That might be the case. I haven't tried any of the whites. But I guess I'll kind of find out if I start using the skin tones, because usually there's quite a lot of white in the skin tones, because most of the time they're for like Caucasian skin, and we're white-ish. I'm a bit yellowish. Depends on the time of year. But no, seriously, there's usually um, quite a bit of white paint in sort of Caucasian skin tones, and so I guess I'll find out that way. Ben McDougall, hey Alex, Happy New Year. Hope you've been having lots of fun. Great to be back in a live stream. I've been having fun. I guess fun has been had. I've just been trying to hang out with my son a lot. We've painted a bit of miniatures. We've been outside a lot, crashing, destroying the snow racer, and you know, doing whatever one does with an 8-year-old, basically. And then I did my bookkeeping. That was like trying to swim over the river Styx without a stick. Dylan says, "Oh, cool, a 52 stream. Didn't know you streamed." I try. I used to stream a bit more, then I took a break, and now I'm sort of back. I like to stream, to say hi, and to convince people of, you know, you have fun and paint some more miniatures, and join my Patreon. If you haven't heard about it, it's a lovely way of sponsoring the work on the videos, is to join the 52 Miniatures Patreon. It's actually going rather. I can tell that, you know, the world is in decline when it comes to money, because a lot of people unfortunately they're losing jobs and I don't know what, and so it's a little bit tricky to get the money in at the moment. But who needs money when one has plenty of XPS foam? Eric says, I haven't tried Duncan's paints yet. I ordered Pro Acryl when I can, and use Golden Artist acrylics for my primary and secondary colors. Yes, I'm a big fan of the Golden So Flat paints because of, you know, the matte surface, and that they're not as thick as the stuff that comes out of tubes. They come in pots, really big pots, rather expensive because the pots are large. I think if you do an equivalent of like what you're actually paying per milliliter, it's cheaper than most miniature paint brands. It's just that the tubs are darn large. It also varies from pigment to pigment, which is a thing with artist paints. But I really like the So Flats. I'm also still very much a scale 75 person. It's for some reason the way I paint works really well with scale 75 paints. I mean, we don't talk about it all that much, but there's, especially now, there's so many different lines of paint and brands coming out with paints and new paints and revision paints and like Mark paint, you know, paint brand, blah, 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 Mark 3 version 5 second inning. And so we're spoiled for choice, but it's also kind of overwhelming because it's like, should I get this one? This is a new one. Everyone on YouTube says this is great because, you know, they like it, and got it sent to them. But there's kind of something we don't really talk all that much about. Maybe we do. Maybe I just don't watch the right YouTube videos or listen to the right podcasts or whatever. But essentially, most paint brands are a little bit different, you know. And there's no... I wouldn't say that there's a paint that is better than another paint. There's obviously paints that are not good, like really cheap paints that, you know, just have way too much medium or something in it and not as much pigment, because it's cheaper and it's just not fun to paint with. There's stuff like that around. But in general, there's lots of different types of paint, and they all kind of act a little bit differently. And kind of what you hear a lot is like when people get a brand of paint that covers really well, that's a really good thing, and that can be the case in some instances. Um, for most people, because I think a lot of people, if we put contrast style paints aside, you do sort of like layer painting. You're painting on, you're doing blue pants, so you paint on some blue. You want the blue to cover all of the pants. You don't want to have to put on 4 layers of blue to cover all the pants. And then you have like a little bit of a lighter blue, and maybe you do some highlights, so you have a wash or whatever. But it's mainly just about covering different areas with different paints, and you want to cover it with as few layers of paint as possible, because otherwise it just takes longer. And so a lot of people are very happy with paints that have awesome coverage, and which is great. Like scale 75 doesn't really have great coverage, in my opinion. It's kind of, a lot of them are kind of goopy and a little bit transparentish, and but for some reason, the way I paint, that works really, really well, because I do lots of different layers and I wet blend and all of this stuff, and it just works really well. Whereas if I change to like trying to do the same with Pro Acryl, for instance, which covers really, really well, I have a hard time doing the same thing as I do with the scale 75 paints. And so I'm a firm believer in the fact that there's lots of different paint ranges out there, and it's not like the latest, there's new paint coming from Army Painter. There are, there's all these ads and things of how great they are, because you can cover without, having to do 5 different layers, and that's great, but it doesn't mean it's the best paint out there. It's just a paint that does that well, and maybe a different type of paint suits someone else. There's also the fact that we don't talk so much about the shine of the paint. Some people like to paint with matte paints. That's why they buy matte paints. Some like the more sort of semi-shiny paints, like Games Workshop paints are not totally matte. And some people really like that, because it affects, if you paint a layer of paint on a miniature and it's sort of satin, if you have a wash on top of that, it's going to flow out so much better than if you have a matte paint. It's just because the surface is a little bit more shiny. And so people that like to paint sort of a very sort of traditional Games Workshop style, using a paint that is not totally matte, and then like putting a wash on it and it flows out beautifully, and then someone tells them to go buy scale 75 paints, which is like, it's so matte, it's like eating a piece of chalk, and you put your wash on there and it just doesn't flow around all that much, because it sticks to the matte surface, because the matte surface is actually, not as flat as a shinier one. That's why it's matte, because and so there's all these different things, which basically means that you should just try and buy a couple of bottles of paint and see how you like it, not just listen to everyone else saying this is the best paint I've ever tried because it's new. But it's tricky because there's so much new stuff out there. I saw Ammo by MIG has come out with a new line of paints. Army Painter's out with the new line of paints. Pro Acryl is a relatively new brand. There's AK Interactives Generation 3 or whatever they're called. Great paints. But, don't listen to what people say. Try some for yourself and see what you think. Okay. I should probably see what people are saying in the chat. A bunker on a bunker in a bunker, says Stretch. Indeed. Lord Biscuit the Tossable. I haven't really done any new projects in a good while. The last project I set out to do was my niece's cat. What did you do to your niece's cat? I'm just kidding. Which I started on in March and simply lost track of. Or Darth Maul in August. I hope you get back into it. I've started one new project already. There's a game that was sent to me, which is called. Hold on. Here's lots of assembled little, tiny little miniatures. Here's the box. Novus Malum by Enviro Games. This company contacted me and asked me if I wanted to be sent this game. It's like a sort of skirmish style game. I haven't even read the rules. They have an environmental image, whatever you want to call it, which I was kind of interested in seeing what it was about. I need to talk to them more about it to understand what is environmental, apart from the fact that it's a relatively small box made out of cardboard. But there's dwarves in there, and here's a dwarf. So there's like a squad of dwarves. It's like high fantasy. I think this might be Siocast, maybe. They're very detailed, but have some annoying mold lines. And then there's like some kind of pixies or something. What are they called? I just forgot. Whoops. Things are flying everywhere. There's cards. I don't know. Wouldn't it be more environmental to have? Sorry, I shouldn't be saying bad things. These are gnomes. Gnome hunters, gnome skirmishers. And I, usually, which is going to sound a little bit spoiled, I get sent quite a bit of things, apart from Games Workshop. Never sent me anything. I never asked, though, so maybe that's why. And, usually I don't have a plan to try things out because I already have plans set in motion, doing other videos and stuff like that. And then there's companies that pay for me to, they sponsor videos, which is great because otherwise I wouldn't be able to afford to spend time building like a thing like this if people didn't sponsor videos. But I thought for once maybe I should just, do something for free. Not really. That wasn't really my thought. But I thought just as a sort of, it just became like a Christmas thing. So me and my girlfriend, we sat down and we assembled all these miniatures. And I figured we should paint them together and then we should try and play the game together as a thing. It was just a fun thing to try out. I've got to say, I've never in my life assembled anything as fiddly as these gnomes. But they're very detailed, which is fun. But yeah, so probably that'll become some kind of video or something. I don't know. But that was a new thing I started. That's what I was onto. We can do some product placement over there. Let's place the product over there. So that's a new thing I started, and I've started painting my Stormcast, which is not starting a new project. It's basically trying to finish an old one. I built a bunker I shouldn't have built. That was a new project, I guess. Yeah. I hope you get into starting something that you feel inspired by. Mr. Biscuit. Jamie Mayers, massive detonation of stored ammunition from a critical hit, hence loop-sided bunker. Exactly. I kind of, because it was just flat, and I was like, "This looks really great." I built it from the side that you can't see. I built it from the front, and I was like, "Wow, I really managed to build something that really looks like a bunker, just out of XPS foam. That's so cool." And then I looked at the back of it and went, "This looks terrible from the back." Um, and then I looked at the whole thing a bit more sort of critically and realized that it looks nice, but it's kind of crooked. It's a bit on edge, and the walls aren't really straight. Solved by adding an explosion narrative, because I also wanted to have an open back so you can actually put your little uh, dwarf in the bunker. And how do you explain an open, it's pretty useless bunker if it's open on all sides? Kind of strange, properties of a thing that's supposed to protect you that isn't actually there protecting you. So hence the big exploded did a big hole here, and also just one in the front, just a small one, so that it kind of looks like the whole thing is a bit shot to pieces. You can't really see it, but there's a dwarf in there, and there's a bit of an exploded hole right there with some armature thingies sticking out. It's a lot of fun. Took ages. Montana, Mark from Montana says, Alex, thank you for highlighting what transformed and then embarking on your game board project. My son was absolutely delighted when I gave him the book for Christmas. It's great to hear. Mark, I hope you and your son can keep on working on it as a combined project, painting miniatures, and hopefully try out playing the game somehow. I definitely recommend, starting as small as you can. You can build army sizes different points value. I think in a War Transformed, I think 10 points is one of the smaller sort of army settings. I'd definitely try and start there, just to be able to get two forces together with this, and see how, if you can play and if you like it, before trying to build a massive 20 or 30 point army. I'm way behind, and my mouth is dry. Here was the continuation of Mr. Tossable. So I haven't justified buying new paints, though between contrast scale 75 and some random bits and pieces, I literally can't justify buying anything until I actually do something. That's another thing as well. I mean, I used to love going to my local game store and going like, I want that paint, and I want that paint, I want that, and I get maybe a few, and then I have a list in my head of all the paints I wanted to get. And now, obviously, because I bought all the paints, I bought all the scale 75 paints and stuff like that eventually. And then I bought lots of oil paints, and I bought contrast paints, some of them, and then people have sent me paints as well to try out. And now I'm at the point where I'm not really buying paints, because I've got so much paint, and if I can't paint with what I've got, that would be strange, because there's a lot of paint here. So I'm not really buying much paint nowadays. Stretch says, "Oh, it's been a while since you did a book recommendation bit." Yeah, I know. And I want to do a book recommendation video. I've probably read 50 books since the last book recommendation video. I'll be honest and say that it didn't really work out well because of YouTube in a way. and I try not to pay attention to that as too much. You know, if YouTube kind of likes when you do similar style videos. So if you have a channel where you basically just do Warhammer and maybe even just do Warhammer 40,000, you just paint Space Marines and Necrons and that's it. Then YouTube can go like, ooh, I know what this channel is about and I can recommend it to people. It's not like just painting miniatures is that it's almost like that's too wide, because then you have like scale modeling people who are like, yeah, I like painting miniatures, and they start watching your video and like, yeah, but this is a Space Marine. I don't like Space Marines, and then they stop watching, and then YouTube realizes that okay, this recommendation didn't work, and so on and so forth. So YouTube really likes when you just repeat yourself, constantly repeat yourself, do the same thing with a twist every single time. And your channel usually will kind of work itself out a little bit better. I haven't really been doing that because I like different games. I like different miniatures. I like to paint miniatures. I also like to build terrain, you know, and that. And then I started doing the book reviews, and that just, you know, it actually affects. If I release a book review video, that affects the videos after it. Even if I go back to doing like painting miniatures, the videos after a book review usually will not do well, because all of a sudden YouTube is like, but what, can you not decide what you're doing? Are you doing book reviews? Are you? And so it just doesn't recommend my videos to anyone because it doesn't understand what it is I'm doing. It's also the only videos I've ever made where I have less subscribers after releasing a video, because there are people out there watching my channel going, what? He reads books. Unsubscribe. This isn't Warhammer. Sort of. And so, you know, I'd release book reviews, and then for a couple of weeks, you know, a month afterwards, the videos after it don't get many views and I lose subscribers. And I just couldn't justify doing, you know, book reviews if it's going to affect my channel that much. And then I still have the other part of my head says, well, screw them, you know, just do book reviews. You enjoy it. But it put me off doing book reviews. And I've contemplated starting another channel that is like, you know, 50 miniatures goes crazy, 52 miniatures, where I can just put anything up and I don't have to even care about views. It's just like, if you want, for the people that like to watch my book recommendation videos, they can just watch them there, and I can just, you know, it'll just be somewhere where I can put that kind of stuff up. I can have, you know, whatever. But it put me off doing it. I'd like to do it again, but I don't know if I will. We'll see. I still read books, that's for sure. Victor Riviera says +1 on BattleTech. Okay, I will. I'll remember the +1. By the way, everyone, if you're watching, like my dear Adrian said before, please press the like button because it spreads the video. There's 99 of you watching and there's only 85 likes. That means that with the help of math, we can calculate how many haven't pressed the like button. But it really helps out, and I would appreciate it. Clyde Dashing also pluses 1 BattleTech. Okay. Is this a conspiracy? Have you guys been talking behind my back? Noted. BattleTech. Babbage says Cyprus is the country and island. I get it. Okay. Well, you definitely haven't sunk to the bottom of the ocean like Atlantis then. Thank you for letting me know. I was just curious, you know. Hello, Shrek PMC. How are you doing? It was a long time ago. Hope you're doing well. Nick Garcia says, one of my favorite YouTube mini painting personalities right here. Your humor is amazing. Thank you, Nick. I think my scripted humor is maybe sometimes a bit funny, but live I'm very dry. At least in my mouth, because I talk too much. Sam says, who's talking to Barbis, isn't watercolors from Cyprus? That's a line of paints. I don't know if I know which one that is. Ian Latimer, good morning from Kiwi land. I'm still on holiday, so I have lots of hobby time. Just made my first batch of sprue goo. No idea what to do with it. Sprue goo, my friend, is it's like sugar. You can use it with anything. It just makes everything better. Makes life sweet. I very much enjoy sprue goo when essentially, for those of you that don't know, if you have sprue, which is the stuff that you clip your miniatures off of, and then you have a glue called plastic cement, which is the stuff you can use to glue plastic miniatures together, which essentially dissolves. It's not really a glue. It actually dissolves the plastic, and when you stick it together and it dries, it's like welding, pretty much. You've made a solid joint by melting the plastic a little bit, which is the way I assemble all my sort of hard plastic Warhammer style miniatures, because I just like the fact that if I drop it on the floor, it just bounces. Things don't crack off, stuff like that. And sprue goo is, if you take some sprue and you dissolve it into in this glue, and you get sort of a thick liquid, if you will. And if you take that out of your little pot that you made your sprue goo in, and maybe you have you have an ugly sort of join on your miniature. You press something together, but there's a gap. And you can put sprue goo in there, and when that dries, it's just exactly the same as the plastic that the miniature is made out of. And you can then, if necessary, sort of sand that down and stuff like that. So it's a great way of filling gaps and joins and things in miniatures that, if necessary, you can sand down, and it just becomes the same thing as the miniature is made out of. And I really like it, especially for larger gaps. Sometimes if you have larger miniatures, monsters, stuff like that. Once I assembled a Stormcast horse, which isn't actually a horse. It's like a griffin thing, horse lion animal with like bird claws on the feet. Yeah, griffin, maybe. And I assembled the whole thing, and I realized when it was done, I'd forgotten to put like a big bit in. It had an open stomach. And it was impossible to put that bit in afterwards, because it should have slotted in, at some other part of the assembly stage. So I couldn't get the bit in there. And so I sort of tried to cut the bit up and form it in place, but it just never turned out great. There was massive gaps. And so I just started filling those up with sprue goo. Let it dry, sand it down a bit, fill it up with a bit more sprue goo, and eventually I had a lovely tummy on that big beast. So sprue goo is great. Matt says, recently got a static grass applicator. Is that something that will make an appearance on the board you're making? I have considered it. Because I think it'd be nice with some grass here and there, but I don't have one, and I don't think I intend to buy one just because I'm building this board. Because I've never before felt that I needed one, And so I kind of feel like maybe I won't ever feel like I need one again after I finish the board. I probably would, if I built more terrain, maybe I would want a static grass applicator, but I haven't really been able to justify that. But I've been thinking about it, and in that case, I'll try and borrow one. I think Leif from Devs and Dice, which is a great channel. If you don't know about it, you should check it out. He builds a lot of scratch-built terrain for Mordheim. Devs and Dice, and his lovely name is Leif. I believe he might have a static grass applicator, and he's from Stockholm as well. So I don't know if I'm not 100% sure that he has one, but for example, that could be, in that case, I could borrow his. Cleo says, my department was all recently eliminated. Is it like assassins involved or something? Sounds terrible. So now I can decide whether to sell all my foam on the black market or just eat it. Sorry to hear it, Cleo. I hope you find a new workplace. I don't think it's. I'm not sure how nourishing this stuff is. You do get pretty good, like dental bite marks. I could probably go to my dentist and see. Can you see the hole? But I'm not sure how nutritious this stuff is. So I probably wouldn't eat it. Selling it on the black market sounds better. But no, seriously, I'm sorry to hear it. I hope you find something soon. Hello, Michael Strange. How are you doing? I hope you're well. You will. Hello from Finland. Good to see you streaming again. It's easy to get Is it easy to get so flat paints in Sweden? It's quite hard, same as Pro Acryl. I did find it. I bought mine through a sort of. It was an online store. They don't actually have a physical store. It's an art store that was only online, but is in Sweden. I can't remember the name of it. And they stocked the so flat range. There's quite a few art stores, and they stock golden, but they don't, for some reason, stock the so flats. So they have lots of golden paints, like the high flow paints and the regular acrylics and stuff like that, but not the so flats. But this was a sort of more of a specialized kind of art dealer, and they had all the so flats, and so I just ordered it from them online. Which worked out fine, and the prices were decent and everything. So maybe you have something similar in Finland, where it's if you have like a art store stockist kind of a place that you can order online from. Adrian's just going to stick with the so flats and his simple mixing formula. Yes, and I like you for it, Adrian. It's great. Hello, Malabo Paints. How are you doing? Dad Side Hobbies asks, do you ever fall in love with a color and push through the fact that it's not a very good quality? I've not found a true match for Rakarth Flesh from Games Workshop that has the warm gray but is not too pink. I definitely do that, sure. I don't know about the quality side. I'm not, as I said, I'm yeah. I'll do the easy answer and say yes, definitely. There's a few paints that I just never stop using. Scale 75's Anthracite Gray is one of them. And There's a Chimera paint, which is one of they have blends that are blended by different painters. So it's like an artist range. And so it's already mixed, because the Chimera paints are single pigment paints, most of them, or all of them. I don't know about the last release. And so to get the paint you want, you might have to mix 2 or 3 paints. But then they also sell pre-mixed paints, which are mixed by famous painters. And there's one in there called Morning Sky or something like that. It's like green blue. And I kind of don't like it because there's too much white in it. Sort of. It's overpowering. It just, whatever you mix it with, it covers everything. I kind of don't really like working with it, but I just find the color mesmerizing and I keep using it anyway. There's a line of paints called Warfront, which are made by Scale Color. So Scale Color makes Scale 75. They're called Fantasy something, and they also have a line. They have their artist paints in a tube, and they also have a line called Warfront, I think, which is basically army, World War I, World War II-ish colors. So there's lots of greens and olives and blues, or suitably drab-ish. And they're very I don't like the consistency. None of these paints are the same. So they all have different qualities. And the Warfront paints, I find really, really difficult to paint with. They work great through the airbrush. But they're very, very sort of goopy and diluted and just difficult to work with. But they have a brown shade, which is my most favorite brown paint in all the world. I just can't use it. I do use it mainly through the airbrush, but also on a brush. And I kind of swear every time because it doesn't do what I want it to do on the brush. I just like the shade. So definitely dad side hobbies. Pulskate Gaming is asking, what time is it over here? It's 22 minutes past 8 in the evening. Dylan says, at some point, one paint is basically as good as another at a certain point of quality, at least in my mind. Sure, there are differences, and those matter on an individual basis, but it's not a big deal. Yeah, or for me, that is sort of the big deal, that different people will like different paints because they act differently on the brush. The quality difference of like how many pigments you put in there and stuff like that obviously matters, but that's, for me, not the big seller. The big seller is what happens when you put it on the brush, and the way you paint, how does that work with your painting style? Essentially. Matt Thrower says, really should level up how dioramas look. You guys talking about, you guys are talking, not to me. That's good. You're talking about the static rasting still, probably. Malbor Paints says, Chimera paints are also super matte, which has its place for sure. Yeah, I essentially only like to paint with matte paints because of how if you paint a layer, it's matte. And so when it's, a matte paint is actually kind of rugged. And so when you paint the next layer on top of that, it feels like the paint actually sticks. It doesn't sort of goop around. And because I do a lot of, I don't really do super smooth. I do a lot of just brush strokes, texture things and stuff like that. And I just like how that works. When there's a matte surface, I put some paint on there. The paint sticks where I want it to paint. It's obviously a lot more difficult to do like sort of smooth glazing, stuff like that. Because if you want to move your paint around and have it to flow, sort of, it'd be easier to do on a more satin kind of surface. Paul Hempenstall says I missed the first Paul. Also Hempenstall. I like scale color flesh tones and their metal and alchemy gold. Their wood set and the others for cloth. Citadel for most base layers with more satin reds, etc. AKV Interactive white for whites. Yeah, whites is always a big thing when it comes to paints, because people want a white paint that actually sort of, and that I can understand. What I said about, scale 75 paints they're kind of gloopy and not always cover very well, which I like, because I like doing multiple layers that sort of blend into each other. But if you want to paint something white and you actually want it to become white, then there's other paints that do that better. ProAcryl does great whites. AK Interactive does great whites. And from what I've been told, the new... no, I haven't been told. That's the only ones. I'm not going to say what other people say. I'm just going to speak for myself. I have quite a few ProAcryl, like the sort of off-white. There's like a sand kind of yellowish white. There's one called Olive Flesh, I think, or olive tone. I know it's a really, really almost white, but sort of a bit olive colored-ish. They're great, and they cover really, really well. AKV Interactive's whites are great, as they work well too. So I definitely use some paints just because of their properties, not just sticking to the one brand. Using different brands for different applications. Paul says it just gets expensive to get them all. This is true. I so wish game stores would, I realized they make money selling like board games and Pokemon cards. But when I was a kid, I remember, it's one of the great things I like about Games Workshop stores is that you can go there and paint. And they have all the paints, and you can just bring a miniature and you can sit there and paint. I guess as long as it's a Games Workshop miniature. But I really miss that with game stores. I wish it was like more of a thing that you could go into a game store and they just have painting desks with paint, and that game stores that stock different brands, they could then have different, I'm sure they could get them. I'm sure it would be messy. I'm sure people would steal paint. All these things. But what if you could go to a game store and, all the brands had sent them testers. So you could try the new Army Painter paints. You could try the Vallejo paints. You could try whatever. They were just there, and you could bring a miniature and just test out the paint before you buy it. That would be lovely. I realize there's no money in it, but, no money in YouTube either, and I'm doing it. Pulsegate Gaming, on that subject, I'm trying to get started as a YouTuber, and I think I'm doing okay, but what advice would you give someone trying to get into the YouTube world? I don't know if I'm a good person to ask for advice regarding YouTube specifically. I guess there's at least two different ways of running a YouTube channel. One is doing YouTube, which is like figuring out how YouTube works and just trying to play by those rules. Figuring out, okay, I've done 10 different videos. I got the most views out of this one. I'll stick with doing that. And then, or whatever. And if you're doing miniatures, only paint Warhammer, preferably Warhammer 40K. There's all these things. If you look at the biggest company in the business is Warhammer. Most people are interested in Warhammer, and most people in general play Warhammer 40,000. So if you want to get sort of if you want to get ahead, and if you want to just do the YouTube thing, there's definitely things that you can do that might make it easier for you. Stick to one format that's the same thing as well. Have the same kind of, it's kind of like if you're watching television and you're like, I really want to watch Friends, the TV series with the people that are friends and they have a coffee shop and stuff. If that's what you're thinking, I really want to watch Friends, and you just put Friends on. Only this time they change Friends, and it's kind of like CSI. And you're like, I don't want to watch CSI. I want to watch Friends. That's why I pressed Friends. A lot of people the majority of people that watch YouTube are like that. I'm being very generalistic here. So, if you have a YouTube channel that is consequent in how it looks, what you talk about, what you're doing, what your subjects are, people will like, I really feel like watching that now, and then watch your channel. If they think, I really want to watch that now, they watch your channel, and you've changed how you do things. They're like, well, this isn't what I wanted to watch. So that's like one way of doing YouTube, is doing YouTube. The other way is like doing what you would like to do. And hopefully other people will like that as well. That's sort of what I've been trying to do, because I do this because I like to do it. This is my hobby. It's obviously exploded and become larger than just a hobby, but it's my core value thing. Is I'm doing this for myself. This is I can see my Stormcast soldier over there, which is for my army that I want to play a game with, and this is a board that I just decided that I wanted to build because I wanted to do it. Hopefully that can bring viewers as well. It usually does, but it's not as easy. And yeah. You can look at other channels and go, wow, I wonder why that channel is really, really popular. You can probably figure it out. And if you want, you can try and just decipher that. Or you can do exactly whatever you want and hope that people like it. And then just keep on doing it. You'll probably have to make like 30 videos before someone even watches them, kind of a thing, especially now. So you need to just stick to it and have fun while you're doing it. And that's the reason why you do it, not just to get more views, because you'll go crazy. Okay. The chat jumped and I realized I'm behind, as always. I'm glad you guys are working things out in the chat, which is great. It's like community building. Love it. Good to see you, Lord Biscuit the Tossable. I hope to see you again. Ape Arson. That's a really weird but fun nickname. Ape Arson. Is it like I see an ape running around with a torch? No, a flamethrower. There's two of them. One has the One ape has the tanks on the back, and then there's the hose, and there's another ape with the flamethrower. But maybe that would be ape's arson or ape arsons. Anyway, thank you for the donation. Thank you so much for all your wet blending help on Instagram. I'm still working at it for my Custom Cities army. Cool. I remember you. You weren't ape arson on Instagram. I'm glad it worked out. I hope you're having fun. Dying to paint says too many paints. Do we call that the saturation point? Har har har. Mr. Three World says, hello, I love your videos. Thank you for making them. My pleasure. I'm glad you're watching them. Dad Side Hobbies says, you have so many major impacts on your hobby. Having kids and a YouTube channel and a business that runs on top of it. What insights would you give to balancing these things to remain a hobby lover? Well, I guess one of the things is sort of what I mentioned recently is I try and just do videos on the things that I think are fun at the time of making them. Obviously, that gets affected by sponsored content and stuff like that. But then I try to change, if someone says, hi, we have these miniatures, can you show them off in a video? Here's the big pile of gold. Then I try and do something with them that I enjoy. The foundation of my videos is that I enjoy making them and I enjoy doing the stuff in it, the painting or the whatever. And so I get all the fun out of that. And that means it's just fun to keep on doing it. Obviously, it affects the hobby. If I wouldn't have a YouTube channel and all of that, I probably would have painted my Stormcast army ages ago. And I probably would have played more games with it. But instead, every other Saturday and Sunday, I'm here making videos instead of playing games. But I don't mind that. It definitely affects the hobby side of it, but for me, it just feels like it's changed it. It doesn't necessarily mean it's been negatively affected. It's just been infected or affected. Dot or dash says, seems like the meta used to be having a second channel for off-topic videos, but that seems to have fallen out of favor. Yeah, that's another thing. I don't really like talking all that much about YouTube because I don't think most people like hearing YouTubers talk about YouTube. But YouTube changes the rules all the time. They say, make long videos, make short videos, do lots of live streams, have another channel. And then they just stick to that for like 4 months, and then they change their minds again. Obviously, they're constantly trying to evolve, and there's like, oh, there's TikTok. Everyone on YouTube that makes shorts will get more views. And then all of a sudden there's Twitch, and it's like everyone doing live streams on YouTube will get more views. And then they kind of forgot that they said that. And then, so if, like a while back, every time I logged into my YouTube behind the scenes account, it used to be like, start another channel, have more channels, do a channel on this, do a channel on that. And now I don't see that anymore. So they're obviously trying to evolve, which means basically if you just, it's like with fashion. If you always wear the same clothes throughout your entire life, you probably be in fashion at least twice. If you have the same kind of outfit, it's going to be really hot at least twice, because it just keeps on spinning in circles. And I think that's kind of what I'm working on. Is I'm just doing my thing, and then every now and again, maybe YouTube will enjoy what I'm doing. Nick Butler says, weirdly, Ash commented that he'd seen exactly this when he'd released his recent Thing review. I think, have I missed something, Nick, before this? Maybe I missed a. Maybe this is discussions going on in the comment section or the chat, or I'm just being confused. Dying to Pain says, "I subscribe because you read books." Yeah, I mean, I've been about this close to making more book reviews, and then it just hasn't happened. I'm sure it will happen. I had for a while there. I also thought like I could just do book reviews and put them up on Patreon, and so that my patrons at least get the book reviews. And I want to do them. I'm probably going to do them. I just got it. It just turned me off. That it would have been one thing if I don't care if the videos themselves do badly. It was just sad to see that the rest of the videos got affected because YouTube doesn't understand how to spread my videos if I diversify too much, which apparently book recommendations, that was like the nail in the coffin or the hammer in the head or like the zombie in the apocalypse. Corvin Tabletop says, my spouse who works for a YouTube channel described the unknowledgeable algorithm as working for a sphinx. Good evening, Bill Making Stuff. Bill is a nice fella. He comes across sometimes as a little bit grumpy, but it's understandable because he spends his days in like a little attic, you know. But he's actually really nice. And if you haven't checked out his channel, which is called Bill Making Stuff, which you probably have because he's like a celebrity stuff kind of a fellow nowadays. But if you haven't, you should definitely check out Bill Making Stuff. Bill has also recently released a game called Bangarang in the Gutterlands, which is just cool. It's cool that people release games. Hello, Bill. I hope you're doing well. JCB hates blank. I just love all these nicknames. Oh, Joe Abercrombie's Life. Your book recommendation win just because of that. I appreciate it. I agree. Abercrombie is great. I'm excited to see what happens next, I guess, in his writing career, because I've read everything else so far, and I want more. Jubas says, any plans on going in one of the Europe painting conventions, like Scale 75 one or Montesavino? I booked a flight last year to go to London in time for Salute. So hopefully that all works out well. I've got flight tickets anyway. I can't remember what. It's this spring, April maybe. Because we don't really have any big sort of conventions, things like that in Sweden at all. And there's lots of great people like Bill, for example. Bill Making Stuff is over in the UK. Lots of other great creators are over in the UK. And going to a larger convention in the UK might mean meeting up with other creators, and just going to a large convention would be fun. So I just picked Salute because it felt like I want to go to that one. So if you're going to Salute later on this year, then hopefully I'll catch you there. I'll be the guy hiding in the corner going, it's too much noise. Juicy Milk asks, how do you motivate yourself to work on a thing sometimes? I've been building and painting the Necromunda ash waste terrain, and I've hit a point where I'm just kind of not feeling it. I definitely understand where you're coming from, and I totally agree. And I think most cases, it's just about pushing through, keep on doing it, and eventually it becomes fun again. Or sometimes just taking a break. But I think that's one of the major benefits of having a YouTube channel is like, I'm just gonna have to keep on doing this because I want to finish this video, you know. He says, staring at his table board. And so I have that, extra push that is just like, oh, well, I just need to do this because otherwise there won't be a video. And then maybe I have a really bad couple of days, and then after that I just sort of went over the hill, and then all of a sudden it's fun again, and you can't really explain it. It's just, sometimes you're not 100% in the mood to do things, and you feel like you really should do them because it's been dragging out so long, but you really don't want to, and then you don't do it, and then you feel bad because you didn't do it, and then and it just never gets done, and sort of bad emotions get connected to the piece itself, and blah blah blah. And I think probably in most cases it's just about just do it, and you sit down, maybe just do a little bit on it, and schedule it. Say I'm gonna paint 15 minutes a week on my ash waste terrain. And then maybe the 5th time you do that, you go like, "Ooh, I really like doing this bit," and you end up doing 2 hours instead of 15 minutes because you're actually all of a sudden enjoying yourself again. Will Stutty asks, would a balloon work for static? I have no idea. It could be worth trying, but it sounds messy. Clyde Dashing says, Leif is awesome. I agree. Leif is awesome. That's Devs and Dice, Leif. Okay, so I'm now getting replies for the sprue goo, which means I'm way behind. Ian Latimer says, oh, the goo thing. I've used acetone to melt down the sprue, guessing I haven't made the goo. Just a large sprue ball. Still don't know what to use it for. Acetone works to make your own sprue goo. You want it to be sort of thickish, like a glue, like a thick glue, like carpenter's glue or something like that. The consistency of something a bit more liquidy than a ball. Balls are not notoriously liquidish. They usually stop being balls when they become more liquidy. Liquid balls sounds. It would work in space, yeah. And when you have something that is a little bit more liquidy than a ball, I mean, it doesn't have to be like water. Somewhere in between a ball and water. Then you can, if you have a gap, say you have a shoulder pad that was, pushed in, and then there's an annoying gap right in the shoulder pad. You take a little bit of that goo when it's not a ball, and you can put it in the shoulder pad. And then when it's dry, you can sand it down, and you'll have a smooth shoulder pad. It's a great usage for sprue goo. Chat's jumping around again. Pulsegate says, you clearly enjoy painting, but do you enjoy playing any of the games with the models that you paint? I do. I just don't do it very often. I definitely enjoy it. It's usually the goal, I paint miniatures for an army to play a game, build a table to play the game. It's just that usually once I've finished, if I've actually finished the miniatures, I think I'm on year 3 of my Stormcast now. Maybe there'll be probably my new Stormcast army will probably be done by summer, hopefully, which is probably when there'll be a new edition of Age of Sigmar out, and there'll be new rules, and my army will be old again. but it's just I enjoy it, and then I finish things, and then I start doing the next thing, and I don't really play much of the game. But I want to play more games, and I enjoy them. Yes, I just don't do it excessively often because I'm in a bunker doing the next video. Hello, Marcus Stratus. How are you doing? Just came in. Love AK paints for general colors. Haven't tried their whites yet. I enjoy their brighter colors, definitely. All the AK paints are great for when I use AK paints. They cover well, but yeah. Chris says Pro Acryl Titanium White and Olive Flesh are awesome. That's the one I've got, Olive Flesh. I use that quite a bit. But yes, all the brighter sort of white-based paints from Pro Acryl just cover really well and smooth. Happy Boom says, thank you for doing these live streams. I recently bought an airbrush and I had great results with ink and isopropanol alcohol, but most of my paints clog very quickly, even when with a blending medium. Any tips? I usually have clogging issues as well, in a way, which essentially, so when I use my airbrush and I'm painting something and I'm going to use my airbrush repetitively in the one sitting, I never let it dry out. So say I spray something with the airbrush. Before I change paints, I usually fill the cup with water, goop around with a brush, pour that out, fill up with water, goop around with a brush, pour that out, fill up with water, hold on to the nozzle, pull the trigger, and it starts to bubble. I do that about twice again. Then I put water in the cup, and then I spray that through the airbrush. And then I go to the next paint. So it's a pretty sort of a lot of cleaning going on in between the paint layers. Usually I also have a little bit of airbrush cleaner that I dip my brush in and wipe the little tip, clean that off as well. And then I go for the next paint. If I'm going to take a little break or I'm going to do some regular brush work and then come back to the airbrush, I take the airbrush and I put it in a cup of water, just up to sort of, not so it comes up to the trigger, but so it covers the cup and the nozzle. So it stays wet until I go in to use the next paint. And that's just sort of the repetitive process of trying to keep it clean and trying to keep it always moist. And then when I'm done, I do the whole cleaning thing, but even more sort of properly. Sometimes I just leave it in water. If I know I'm going to paint with the airbrush and the next day or 2 days after, I just leave it in water. If not, I just try and sort of clean it relatively properly and let it dry. And so there's a lot of cleaning going on in between changing out the paints. And that keeps me from getting very many clogs. It also sort of depends on the paint, how much airbrush thinner is in the paint. I have lots of troubles with primers. Airbrush primers always clog up for me, all that kind of stuff. There's usually a lot of clogging going on. It's sort of an airbrush thing, I think. Marcus says, being able to try paints would be brilliant. Yeah, I definitely think it would be a great thing for sort of local gaming stores, not only to have sort of like, just so you can go in and sit and paint, with, you know, hang out with random new friends, especially for kids. You know, they're buying stuff from their pocket money. That's what I remember from Warhammer stores when I was a kid. It's like you couldn't afford the paints, but you could go into the Warhammer store and like paint some using all the paints you didn't have. And I just think it'd be great if there was more of that. I know it requires space. It requires, staff to clean it up, to keep it in control. It's costly, but I just think it would be great. Dying to Paint asks me, does YouTube tell you how many hobby channels there are? No, it doesn't. But there's probably lots of them. Yes. Clyde Dashing says, can't wait to see the board done so I can see more Stargrave. I kind of can't wait to see the board done either. It's taking time. Let's just say that. But I have some plans to try and make it bearable. I've hopefully got an interview planned for the next video. I'm hopefully going to be able to include an interview with the guy who wrote the game itself as a thing. So that's fun, but we'll see. We haven't actually done the interview yet, but we've been talking about it. Felix says, I'm sorry that I have to leave. Real life is calling. Well, it's good to see you, Phil. Felix. Thanks for jumping in. Jeremiah says, not enough foam, needs more foam. Yeah, I have foam everywhere. I need to, all the cut off bits, like there's no point in saving any of it because I've also got big chunks, but there's like bags after bags after bags that I need to go take to like a recycling place. DJ Marquito says, you rock, keep doing what you're doing. I intend to, thank you. Clyde Dashing says, should do a Tonks collab battle also on the new board when it's done. Yes, Tonks is a fun little game with tanks that you should also check out if you haven't heard of it. It's like tank against tank. I'm going to try and catch up with the chat a little bit, and then we're also closing in on 2 hours of streaming here, so I'm not going to keep on going for all that much longer. Bricktop says, hi Alex, I like longer form videos and people that put themselves on camera. There's nothing worse than a voice over of someone painting a mini. Now use this color, now do this, now do that. It's boring. I think for me, everything has its place. Really, if you're after a specific thing, like how do I glaze, or I'm going to paint this red, but I don't know how. I need to see a step-by-step process. It's great that kind of videos exist. Personally, I just don't really enjoy making that kind of videos. I enjoy making my style videos, but I think it's great that everything is out there. Dad Side Hobby says, thanks to the chat, Alex. You'll have to tell us how you're so comfortable chatting with the camera someday. Former child star. Google tells me that this isn't swearing. Yeah. Have a great night. You too, Dad Side Hobbies. I think you just get used to it after a while. I was not comfortable when I started streaming. Now it's also a lot nicer when there's you nice people to talk to. It just feels a bit more like a conversation. So thanks. Eric Brown says, the zombie in the apocalypse might be my favorite new idiom. Yes. Giuseppe Corino, howdy from Ireland. How are you doing in Sweden? I'm doing pretty well. It's been awfully cold, and I've been doing my past year's bookkeeping for 3 days. So I'm happy to be here back in my bunker streaming with you guys. Martin Cobb. Hello, Martin. How are you doing? All the cool kids catch the stream in the last 10 minutes or so. It's indeed. Have you been? I hope you're doing well, Martin. Have you been putting your son to bed? Perhaps no, it's not early. It's probably about bedtime for kids. See, Martin is one of my favorite admins. Essentially, the admin. And one must listen to Martin when Martin speaks, because he has the power, and he says, buy 52 Miniatures merch and join the Patreon now, if you would like to. I agree. And there's even now a link to the Patreon in the chat. Thank you, Martin. This is why you have the power. You're doing great things with the power. Jeremiah M says, wiping the tip of the airbrush with the moist sponge every so often can help. Definitely, yeah. Just having like a little spongy thing with just moist with water, keeping all the residue, dry paint off of there does wonders. Isaac Almqvist says, I just arrived in the end. Yes, I'm afraid so, Isaac. We've reached the end. Michael Stuller says, I joined the Patreon now. See, lovely. Welcome to the big family. That is the 52 Miniatures Patreon. Remember that Martin is the boss. And I am the most enlightened despot. That about covers it. No, it's great. If you join the Patreon, there's a lovely chance to join, or you get to be on the Discord where we all hang out. There's some great painters and some great crafters and just a general bunch of nice people. So welcome, Michael. Thank you. Eric Brown says, can confirm the Patreon is great. Mike says, I bought Eve when it was offered for sale. Excellent artwork and constant source of inspiration. I'm glad to hear that, Mike. I need to oversee that whole thing. I had a plan on doing new merch like t-shirts and stuff, and I reached out to a guy that I think is a great art designer, director fella, but he was really busy, and then that kind of hasn't happened yet. My plan with the Eve artwork was, when I started making money off of it, I would put some of that money into like a reserve to be able to do more artwork. And I don't know, I think maybe I've sold about 50 or 60 Eves, which covers paying for the artist that did Eve, and covers the cost of printing and the envelopes and all the stamps and all of that. But there's not huge amounts left over after that. So I need to start another kind of project to be able to do more art. I have a specific one in mind, but that probably will just not be done until later this new 2024. But I want to get more art on there and other things. So I'm looking forward to that. I'm going to end this stream now. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you, everyone, for hanging out. I hope you've been, getting some time to do your hobby things. It's great to see you helping each other out in the chat with tips and tricks. And hopefully it won't be too long until the next stream. In the meanwhile, make sure to start as many new projects as you can, because we're starting a new year. It's 2024. We've got an entire year of starting new projects and trying to finish them. We only need December for finishing them. We've got another 11 months to start them. So go for it. It's been a pleasure. Bye.